stop what you're doing. As many of you requested, what I'm about to share in the next 20 minutes will collapse decades of confusion about why some desires manifest while others don't into a single moment of clarity. Tonight, I compress 30 years of research into 20 minutes, not because time is short, but because truth, real truth, is breathtakingly simple. You see, I've been where you are, complicating consciousness, overanalyzing manifestation, treating assumption like some mystical art that only the chosen few can master. I spent decades collecting techniques, accumulating knowledge, believing that somewhere in all that complexity lay the secret to creation. But tonight I strip away years of confusion and give you what actually works. Not more methods, not more theories. The pure, undiluted understanding that transforms assumption from a practice into your natural state of being. Because here's what I discovered after 3 decades of living this law. You don't need to perfect your assumptions. You need to recognize that your assumptions are already perfect, perfectly creating exactly what you've been assuming. The wealthy assume wealth. The healthy assume health. The loved assume love. They don't hope. They don't try. They assume. But I tell you now with absolute certainty, the law of assumption is embarrassingly simple. So simple that when you hear it, you will wonder how you ever believed otherwise. And in the next minutes, you'll understand not just how they do it, but how you've been doing it all along. Here is what they did not tell you in those years of seeking. You are not learning to manifest. You are already manifesting. Every moment, every breath, every thought. The question is not whether the law works. The question is, what are you assuming when you think no one is watching? The wealthy person you admire, they assumed wealth before they saw it. The healthy person you envy, they dwelt in perfect health while symptoms suggested otherwise. The beloved person you wish you could be, they claimed love as their birthright before anyone offered it. Let me tell you about Jessie. 3 years ago, she sat in her apartment with $17 to her name, eviction notice on the door, credit cards maxed. Family had given up on her. She had tried everything the world teaches. Vision boards, affirmations, action plans, networking, nothing. Then she heard these words, not as theory, but as truth, and something shifted. Instead of begging the universe for money, she began to assume she was already wealthy, not pretending, not hoping, assuming. Each morning she would sit quietly and feel herself writing checks without looking at the balance. She would hear her accountant discussing her investments. She would feel the texture of helping her parents with their mortgage. She would close her eyes and live from the end so vividly that poverty became the dream and wealth became the reality. The world said she was delusional. Her mind screamed that this was foolish, but she persisted in assumption, and something miraculous began to unfold. First, a friend called about a forgotten investment from years ago. It had grown. Suddenly, she had $3,000. Coincidence? She knew better. Her assumption was hardening into fact, but she did not stop there. She continued to dwell in wealth, to feel it, to breathe it, to assume it as naturally as she assumed her own name. Then the call came. A company she had never heard of wanted to acquire her small blog for more money than she had ever imagined. Not because she was hustling, not because she was networking, because consciousness creates reality, and her consciousness had been restructured by assumption. Today, Jessie is a millionaire, but she will tell you the money came not when she learned to manifest, but when she learned to assume. When she stopped trying to become wealthy and started being wealthy from within. This is not magic, this is law, and it responds to assumption with mathematical precision. Now listen carefully, for what I'm about to tell you will change your life if you let it penetrate your consciousness. Imagination is the divine body. It is not a faculty, it is your very self. And that which you imagine and feel to be true of yourself must express itself in your world. Must. This is not possibility. This is law. But here is where 30 years of seeking has led people astray. They imagine mechanically. They visualize desperately. They affirm frantically. and they wonder why nothing changes. The law of assumption does not respond to effort. It responds to acceptance. It responds to the naturalness of your inner state. It responds to what you assume to be true about yourself when no one is watching, when no one is listening, when no one can judge you for your assumptions. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. Circumstances are at the mercy of your assumptions. You are not waiting for money to feel secure. Security is a state of consciousness that produces money. You are not waiting for health to feel whole. Wholeness is your natural state that produces health. The outer world is shadow, the inner world is substance, and shadow must follow substance as surely as night follows day. But here is the secret that 30 years of teachers have obscured with complexity. Assumption is not a technique. It is a way of being. It is not something you do. It is something you accept. It is not future tense. It is present moment acceptance of what is true now in consciousness. When you lie in bed at night, what do you assume about your financial situation? When you wake in the morning, what do you assume about your health? When you look in the mirror, what do you assume about your worth? These assumptions, these quiet, private, internal conversations are creating your world. Every assumption you persist in must harden into fact. The law makes no exceptions. It does not judge your assumptions as good or bad. It simply says yes to what you consistently accept as true. So if you assume you are unlucky, the law says yes. If you assume you are blessed, the law says yes. If you assume you are struggling, the law says yes. If you assume you are thriving, the law says yes. The law is completely impersonal and completely reliable, and it has been responding to your assumptions all your life. The question is, are you going to continue assuming unconsciously, or are you going to begin assuming deliberately? Let us now take the decades of accumulated wisdom and apply them to the most common struggles of human experience. For in these next moments, I will show you how assumption transforms every area of your life when you dare to accept it fully. For those seeking financial freedom, the world has taught you to chase money, to hustle for it, to worry about it. But I tell you now, stop assuming you need money and start assuming you have it. Right now, as you hear these words, feel yourself checking your bank balance and seeing abundance. Not someday, now. Feel the relief flooding through you as you see those numbers. Feel yourself saying yes to opportunities without counting the cost. Feel the freedom of knowing there is always enough. Feel yourself being generous because abundance flows through you like a river. Close your eyes and feel yourself writing checks without hesitation. Feel yourself walking into any store and choosing what you desire without looking at price tags. Feel the weight of prosperity in your pocket, in your accounts, in your very being. Hear your financial advisor discussing your growing investments. Feel the satisfaction of helping family members with their needs. Feel the security of knowing you are provided for in ways that exceed your imagination. This is not fantasy. This is the reprogramming of your fundamental assumption about your relationship with money. Money is not your master. Money is your servant. Money is not your problem. Money is your solution already manifested in consciousness. The poverty you see is yesterday's assumption. The wealth you feel is today's reality. For those seeking perfect health, your body has been reflecting your beliefs about aging, about limitation, about genetic destiny. But consciousness is the only reality, and your consciousness can resurrect any condition. Stop assuming your body is failing and start assuming it is regenerating. Stop dwelling in symptoms and start dwelling in perfect health. Right now, feel yourself moving with the vitality of youth. Feel energy coursing through every cell. Feel strength returning to muscles that had grown weak. Feel clarity returning to a mind that had grown foggy. See yourself looking in the mirror and being amazed at your transformation. Your skin glowing, your eyes bright, your posture strong and confident. Feel your doctor's amazement at your perfect test results. Hear them say the words you long to hear. Everything is perfect. You are completely healthy. But go deeper. Feel yourself running without breathlessness. Feel yourself sleeping deeply and waking refreshed. Feel yourself eating with enjoyment and perfect digestion. Feel your body responding to your every command with grace and ease. Feel younger with each passing day because you have assumed youth as your natural state. Your body follows your beliefs, and your beliefs follow your assumptions. The body is not your enemy. The body is your faithful servant, reorganizing itself according to your inner convictions. What you accept as true of your body, though denied by current symptoms, must manifest in your flesh. For those seeking love, you have been taught that love is scarce, that good partners are taken, that you must search and struggle to find your match. But love is not something external to be found. Love is something internal to be assumed. Stop assuming you are alone and start assuming you are cherished. Right now, feel arms around you. Not imaginary arms, but the arms of the one who sees you completely and loves what they see. Feel deep connection flowing between you. Feel understood, accepted, adored. Feel the security of partnership, the joy of sharing life with someone who enhances your world. Feel conversations that flow effortlessly. Feel laughter that bubbles up naturally. Feel the warmth of being chosen by someone who chooses you every day. But feel more than romance. Feel friendship. Feel the joy of planning a future together. Feel the comfort of knowing someone has your back completely. Feel the excitement of building something beautiful together. Hear your friends saying, "You two are perfect together." Feel the contentment of coming home to love every single day. Love is not something you find by searching. Love is something you become by assuming you are already loved. Love is not something you earn through improvement. Love is something you claim through assumption. The loneliness you experience is yesterday's assumption. The love you feel is today's reality. For those seeking purpose, you have been wandering, searching, asking, "What is my purpose?" as if purpose were hidden somewhere outside yourself. But purpose is not discovered through seeking. Purpose is assumed through being. Stop assuming you are lost and start assuming you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you came to do. Right now, feel yourself engaged in work that matters. Feel the satisfaction of using your gifts in service of something greater than yourself. Feel recognition for your unique contribution. Feel the alignment of your talents with the world's needs. Feel the joy of making a difference. Feel the confidence of knowing your value. Feel appreciated, respected, needed. But feel beyond career. Feel the purpose in your relationships, in your creativity, in your very presence. Feel yourself lighting up rooms with your energy. Feel others drawn to your wisdom, your strength, your unique perspective. Feel the deep satisfaction of living authentically, of expressing your true self without apology or compromise. Purpose is not a destination to reach. Purpose is a state to occupy. Purpose is not something you find. Purpose is something you assume. The confusion you feel is yesterday's assumption. The clarity you experience is today's reality. But here is what 30 years of experience teaches, what all the seeking and struggling reveals. You cannot assume one thing while dwelling in another. You cannot assume wealth while feeling poor. You cannot assume health while focusing on symptoms. You cannot assume love while feeling unworthy. You cannot assume purpose while believing you are lost. The assumption must be complete, total, unwavering. It must become your dominant state, your natural dwelling place, your assumed identity, not something you visit during meditation, but something you live from during every moment. The art is in the complete acceptance of the new assumption, to dwell in it as naturally as you breathe, to return to it as automatically as your heart beats. To live from it even when appearances suggest otherwise, when circumstances contradict it, when others question your sanity. For assumption is not about changing the outer world. Assumption is about accepting the inner truth. And when the inner truth is fully accepted, completely embodied, naturally assumed, Then the outer world has no choice but to reorganize itself in harmony with your inner conviction. This is the law. This is the promise. This is the reality that 30 years of seeking finally reveals. Now your mind will object. It will say this is too simple. It will say you need to be realistic. It will point to current circumstances as proof that assumption does not work. But I tell you, doubt is just an assumption. Fear is just an assumption. Limitation is just an assumption. And any assumption can be changed by choosing a different assumption. The man who assumes he cannot change his life is right within his assumption. The woman who assumes she is too old to start over is right within her assumption. But assumptions are not facts. They are choices. You have been assuming limitation for so long that it feels like truth. But limitation is just a habit of thought, and habits can be changed. Do not fight the old assumption. Simply stop feeding it attention. Stop rehearsing it. Stop giving it the energy of your consciousness. Instead, feed the new assumption. Rehearse the new assumption. Give it all the energy you used to waste on limitation. The old assumption will fade through neglect. The new assumption will strengthen through attention. This is the natural law of consciousness. Close your eyes now. Breathe deeply. And for these next moments, do not think about assumption. Do not think about technique. Simply accept what I am about to tell you as already true. You are prosperous. Feel it in your chest. You are healthy. Feel it in your body. You are loved. Feel it in your heart. You are purposeful. Feel it in your soul. This is not imagination. This is recognition. You are not trying to become these states. You already are these states. You are simply remembering what consciousness already knows. Breathe into this knowing. Let it fill you. Let it become more real than anything your senses have ever told you. Let it become your natural state, your assumed state, your only state. This is who you are. This is who you have always been. This is who you will always be. Assumption is simply the remembering of what is already true. 30 years of seeking ends tonight. Not because you have found something new, but because you have remembered something ancient. You are the power you have been seeking. You are the solution you have been chasing. You are the miracle you have been waiting for. Assumption is not a technique you learn. It is a truth you accept. It is not future tense. It is present reality. It is not something you do sometimes. It is who you are always. The law has been operating all your life. Tonight, you simply begin operating it consciously. You begin assuming deliberately. You begin creating intentionally. Return to this truth daily, not because you doubt it, but because you honor it. Not because you need convincing, but because you choose remembering. The more you return to these truths, the more natural they become. The more natural they become, the more powerfully they operate. The world will challenge your new assumptions. Let it. Appearances will contradict your inner knowing. Ignore them. Others will question your new way of being. Smile and continue assuming. For you now know the secret that 30 years of seeking reveals. Consciousness is the only reality, and assumption is how consciousness chooses its experience. Your assumption is law. Your inner state is fact. Now go forth and assume boldly. Assume persistently. Assume naturally. For the law is always working, and it is always working perfectly. And remember, return to this teaching again and again until assumption becomes as natural as breathing. Until these truths are not something you remember, but something you embody. Until you are not someone who knows the law, but someone who lives as the law. The work is complete when assumption becomes identity. When these states are not something you visit, but something you are. Will you dare to assume? Will you persist until it is done? The choice, as always, is yours. But the law remains faithful to whatever you choose to assume. It is finished.